So tonight we are going to be covering, it's a big topic. I will give a warning on that one. So last week, I'll give a little backstory here for anybody who might be new to me coming in or catching the replay. We'd already covered Indigo Children times, actually. And so we've had the subsequent Rainbow and Crystal Children on the table before. Nobody ever voted it in, so it never got covered. But if I'm going to do something, I don't ever do it half-assed. I do it all the way. And so to lay the foundation down, we're going to cover Starseeds and what that is first to give a better understanding of the Indigo, Rainbow, Crystal, and Golden Children, which I just discovered last night is a thing. I didn't know they had a name already for it, but I guess so. So we're going to cover all that tonight. So it's going to be a lot, but it ought to be good. It's good stuff. So, and I also, if anybody sees it, I monitor the chat from my group in Facebook. It's where the majority of my peeps go to watch the show. So it's just easier. Everybody, any chat from anywhere shows up in there. So I will wait a minute for me to get up and running. There I am. I'm a little glitchy on that, but that's okay. And there we are. Hey, Mary and Chris and Marianne and. Let me give you guys a heart so you know I see ya. There. What else we got? Oh, and Mary. We said hi to Mary already. And there we are. So there will be a point towards the end of the show where I'm going to leave the chat to read a couple screenshots I have of a really good piece that I came across in the early hours this morning. That's very pertinent. So it also gives a further explanation. So that'll happen later, but I'll tell you guys first. I know long time no hear from. Was answering her messages, her posts and stuff, and commenting on them right before I came in here. So how is everyone doing tonight? I also had this weird makeup glitch right before getting ready to come in. I was took a drink of my tea and got this horrible taste in my mouth. And I just washed these cups last night, so it's not that. And I was like, it was an older lipstick I used, and I finally realized that was what was giving me the nasty ass taste in my mouth. That's now in my trash can, needless to say. It was just gross. It was a nice color, but not worth that. It tastes like something kind of curled up and died in there. So anyhow, that was the last minute makeup fix. And I'm curious tonight. So you guys in chat are going to love this. Anybody who's new to me, Facebook is my primary group platform for everything. But, I'm also on TikTok and YouTube and kind of everywhere through Soma Fusion. And I have my own channels as well on those places. And so I share out the show announcement when I make it, of course, letting everybody know the topic, etc. And for the first time ever in nearly just about 3 years now I've been doing the show, I actually had a marriage proposal from a gentleman. That was the first. I usually like to meet a guy before I marry them. Silly me, it's, And I have been using a new tactic to kind of push the strays away from hitting on me in comments and stuff of, hey, you want to talk to me? Come to in my chat during my show and talk to me there, because I don't add strangers to my Facebook feed, friends list. And I'm not going to give a stranger access to my private life, thanks. And I'm in the right place now, yeah. And he actually came and joined the group. He says he's going to be here tonight, so I'm going to be amused if they actually show up. I have done it 3 times now, where I've gained 3 new members, but none of them have actually showed up for a show. It's going to be interesting. Just to give you ladies a little heads up. You can feel free to, respectfully, kind of keep them in line for me. Hi, Miss Tanya. How are you, beautiful? Yeah, and then he actually, after he made the marry me thing, he apologized. So I guess that was a little bit forward. Where do guys get off thinking that we women want to be picked up in Facebook in our comments, or, like me advertising my show or something? I don't want to get hit on, and nobody else, no other woman I know wants that either. Yet they don't have any qualms about, commenting on a comment we make in a show we're watching, or a post somebody makes of trying to pick us up there. It's like Facebook has an entire dating site section. You might be wanting to check that out, because this is not the avenue to get my attention. Sorry. Yes, all of us do, Mary, and it's, yeah, I don't understand where guys think we like that. Hi, Miss Kim. So anyhow, we'll see if this one shows, but if it gives me new members, that's all right. They can have at that. I really thought that like that would be the thing to push them away, but they've come and joined, but none of them have come to the show, which is okay by me. It's okay if they do. It's okay if they don't. And I let him know that if he does, then he needs to be respectful and not make an ass out of himself, or he will be removed as a troll. And that the people who broadcast me, the woman who's behind the magic, that she has no tolerance for trolls and will not hesitate to remove you if you're online. So be aware. Katie enjoys that sort of thing every bit as much as I do. So anyhow, that was my fun the other night. Glad that you made it in, Miss Sandy. How you feeling, beautiful? Oh, you guys have number one after your thing. What is that? A number one member, fan, whatever? Huh, I haven't seen that as a badge yet. Oh, me too. I actually, exactly, Mary, I used to do this thing of, who's that troll trying to cross my bridge? Trip, trap, trip, trap, trip, trap. And then I nab them and kick their knees under them, give it back to them, and they miraculously shut up and usually leave. You can, Mary. No, girl, I'm telling you, go ahead, have at it. If he happens to show, you are welcome. Because I like I said, in all my years on Facebook, all the 3 years I've been doing this show, I've never been proposed to. So that was a unique experience. So, and I warned them before coming in, hey, be aware that everybody in there is my family. So you have to stand up against them. Exactly, Danya. I'm okay with that. Can't be mad at that, So let's get the sage blessing out of the way. We're missing Miss Sandy Griffin. Usually guys are up to no good if they're trying to get girls on Facebook, etc. You can happen. This sounds desperate to me. No, absolutely. And there is a thing where if you go to their 9 times out of 10, I swear, 9 times out of 10, you go to their profile. It was just made like in the last hour or at least 24 hours. And they may have a gobsmack of pictures on there to make it look like it's more established. All of the pictures have the same date of being added at the same time. And yeah, no. Nope. And if you look at like the About Me section, if it's filled out at all, it always, I mean, I've even have it say sometimes where it's a guy's post, like the ad or not ad page, but it'll say she just changed her profile picture. So thank you for sharing. So anyways, you got to look out for that stuff. It's red flags. So with this sage, I cast a circle of protection around everyone who is in the show tonight, watching, listening in anywhere across Soma Fusion Radio Land, YouTube, anywhere that we are on, and to keep you safe from harm, ill will, ill intent, any of the above, any negativity of any sort, and may you carry that protection outward into your personal and private lives as well. And for anybody watching the replay as well, that goes for you too. So anybody watching my show, just appreciate it, and with love that I send this blessing. So I will it, so mo to be. There we go, guys. Been hit on a lot, and I'm all, I don't get it where they don't like go use Facebook dating if that's your thing. Don't hit me up, and especially if they do it on the Beyond the Veil page, like that's my business page. Do not come and try to pick me up there. You can't get much more inappropriate. Like I'm just gonna be like, oh yes, let me at you. No, not. I don't know. They got some nerves, all I can say. And naivety to think that, I mean, there are women who will fall for it, granted, who will add them in and not think twice about adding them as a friend, but I'm more careful in that. You have to be nowadays. So anyhow, those pop-ups need to be stopped. So tonight, like I said, you know me, if I'm going to do a topic, I'm going to do it all the way or nothing. And so we'd already covered Indigo Children twice before now, actually, because for anybody who is new to my show, who might watch the replay or is watching on YouTube, I had lost everything. I've kind of been targeted a year ago and lost everything. My original group was taken down. All the archives of all my appearances anywhere ever were also removed. So the group had voted to have me recover those shows that we lost for the original archives before I joined up with Soma Fusion. And so we'd already originally, covered the Indigo Children then, but we just redid it again last week and talked about that. But we haven't actually ever covered as a foundation what starseeds are. So since indigo, rainbows, crystals, and golden children, which I just learned about this morning, I'm going to lay the foundation. They're all considered star seeds. So we're going to cover that first and then go into the others. Oh, girl, I know you got my back, Chris. All my ladies and me. We form quite a shield wall against anything, and I'm aware of that. And I know I tend to leave a lot of those comments up because I know it amuses you guys to see in the aftermath or contribute to even, so. Man, out of here. All right, so let's start here. There's always going to be people wander in. That's normal too. So what is a starseed? Let's start with that. Like I said, get the foundation down first to build on from there. So what is a starseed? A starseed, AKA, is star people. Yes, shield walls are mouths. Well, it's social media. You have to watch everybody's backs. So starseeds are highly intelligent souls whose origins lie outside of the Earth plane. They are thought to, some of them, even this being their first time having a lifetime on Earth. My lighting is wonky again. It looks like overly bright. I don't know why it's doing that. By the way, crying is still between his legs. Well, yeah, no, I mean, that's like I said, if you guys ever see anybody doing that, even if I've already commented on it, comment on there too. Throw your own 2 cents in. Let them know that, we're wise to you. And I love it. If I tell them no, you'll see them go through all the comments in the chat of a show, the comment section of a show that someone's watching. They'll go down and hit on every single woman the exact same lines over and over again for every single woman. It's like, really? At least be original. Anyhow, so starseeds or star people are highly intelligent souls whose origins lie outside of the Earth plane. And like I said, sometimes it's the only time they've ever been here before. It's all about, or it's thought that their souls originated at the beginning of their journeys, aka when they first, were kind of sparked into existence. They started out in different planets, galaxies, even different dimensions, and sometimes parallel universes as well. Yes, you have, Chris, and I thank you for that. And I've done it, back at you too, so it's all good. So starseeds are old souls who are very evolved, who have incarnated here as volunteers to seed a new consciousness and to assist Earth into what has been prophesied to be the golden age. You guys hear me talking about that a lot, and that's where where things are trying to be heading towards. It's been prophesied since it'll get there. And so they aren't aware of their true identities or missions even until the moment of their activation. There seems to come a moment where it's like an alarm clock going off, or once they have started their awakening process, it kind of just dings on them that, oh my gosh, I don't feel like I'm from here. Now, that said, we all know those people who deal with depression and anxiety and stuff, who are empaths, and they get overwhelmed by everything, um, all the emotions out there, and they feel like they're such an old soul. And, that really doesn't have anything to do with the age of a soul. That's something completely different. And so these are genuinely like really old. They've been around the block a few times, to say the least, and are very wise. And they've had several missions in several different places, and this is their current one. And we've talked about missions before, like with soul contracts and stuff. It's kind of like a soul contract where they have a certain thing they're setting out to accomplish. Um, and even on our everyday paths, we encounter those people who we meet who come into our lives, and it's an intense, closely related relationship where you feel like you've known them all your life, but something dramatic happens at a certain point where, in my opinion, once the mission is accomplished, the universe sets off like this bomb to make the relationship irreparable to ever be fixed again, and they go on their way off your path. They were meant to come on for a certain reason, either for you to teach somebody something or for them to teach you. And once that's accomplished, they go on their way, and it's not meant to be fixed and rejuvenated or otherwise. So it's one of those things. Um, but you can have a certain job or what have you that you get assigned to do, and that's theirs. Is to seed a new consciousness, to help move the earth consciousness to that fifth dimension consciousness, and to hold it there by more and more people joining that collective. So it's sort of like an internal alarm clock going off, or an activation switch that unlocks the wisdom at a predetermined time to fulfill that mission. And it usually happens through having, like I said, their awakening. And once they raise their vibration, of their personal energy to a higher frequency through their having their awakening, that's when they seem to regain, some, we always block out memories of our previous existences, so it doesn't get in the way of what we came here to learn in each lifetime, or wherever we're going to have a lifetime. It was that we have all those memories of all of our before times. It would jumble things, and it would get in the way of knowing and learning what you need to learn. So we make it's like a conscious amnesia, if you will, before incarnating into a life. So they start having memories come back to them at that point of where they're from, and like with an increasing of their psychic abilities, it also starts kind of being able to tap into some of those before times and who they actually are, or being drawn to a specific area of the night sky. And then once upon investigating, there is certain areas there that we haven't even fully investigated because we can't yet. And they just know that there's some reason they're drawn there. They can't explain it fully. Sometimes it's through dreams, and we have dream recall of past lives regularly for a lot of people. So that's when they start getting some of these memories back. So all of that said, signs of being a starseed that you might be one is, the first one is you start off feeling different at a very young age, and often you begin walking or talking or reading earlier than your peers do, like the developmental milestones come sooner. Number two, you may have struggled with ADD, which is attention deficit disorder, or ADHD, which is they're under the diagnostic manual for psychological disorders. They combine them now. For me, they are separate because ADD doesn't really have the hyperactivity piece to it that ADHD has. So they are still separate things, but they are interrelated, if that makes any sense. So the person may have struggled either with ADD or ADHD, have antisocial behavior where they just can't fit in anywhere. They have a big time hard time navigating social situations, fitting into group situations. They just can't find their niche growing up. They may have been also diagnosed with autism. That's also common, and we're going to delve into that a little further in. And they also tend to be way more creative than what their peers tend to be at a younger age as well. And it gets expressed either artistically through music is another common way that that creativity comes out, writing for some of them. So the third one is you decide to become vegan or vegetarian at a young age. You often have a really deep connection and love, as well as a respect for animals and nature. And so not being vegan is not on the table for them. That's just their stance. They'll often take it at a young age in childhood and say, I can't eat that. Number four, they are incredibly intelligent but bored easily by traditional teaching methods. And that always leads to kids becoming labeled as troublemakers and so forth. Uh, Diagnosis of like ADD, ADHD, those things come at a younger age now through, it's not a bad thing in fact of identifying an issue early to provide supportive services to students to help them get through it as successfully as they can. Um, and they don't as easily write off children as they used to. It's just, oh, that's just a problem child and kick them out of the classroom. And they try to integrate them through having teaching methods to accompany any learning style someone might have. But they still get bored easily because they're way ahead. Their intelligence is up here and they're teaching down here. They already kind of got that stuff. It's boring. ADHD seemed to come to the fore more than ever in the mid 80s. It did, absolutely. No, I knew what you meant. And yeah, ADHD was over-labeled. If a kid was high energy, they got labeled and medicated. And I disagree. My daughter got diagnosed with ADD. She didn't have the hyperactivity piece to it, but we tried medication and she never really noticed a big difference with it. So, early on, she got to a point where she said, "Can I try it without it?" And she'd been on high honor roll since like sixth grade, since they start really tracking that stuff. And I said, well, yeah, but if your grades start to slide too much, then, we're going to have to put you back on it again and we'll play it by ear. And she was able to hold her own. So I let her stay off of it. I didn't nobody likes their kids being medicated unnecessarily. Well, most parents don't. There are some, but we're not going to go there. But you don't want to shove your kids full of drugs unnecessarily. And so if she could get by without it, then that's what I chose. So they also, number 5, is interested in spirituality and are drawn to metaphysics and the science beyond other dimensions at even a younger age than what is normal for that. Yeah, my grandson quit taking the meds, made him sluggish. Yeah, a lot of them it did. Any medication that's prescribed psychologically, one of my earliest teachers, he said it best when he said that, it doesn't make it easier for the person taking them. It makes it easier for the people living with those people. The side effects and everything else can be horrible for the person who's on them. But, for the people living with them, yeah, it makes them easier because they're drugged out. But, so if my kid could get by without it, then yes, that was allowed. Number 6, these kids tend to be more intuitive and or have psychic gifts showing up at an earlier age. Number 7, you feel as though you have a purpose or mission to fulfill and are often drawn to wanting to help humanity, but you're vexed by the limitations of restrictions on doing so. That you're frustrated because you can't make a bigger change where the need is there and you can't impact it enough. So that causes a lot of frustration. They tend to be highly empathic. They have very high and intense, vivid dreams that may be reoccurring dreams, even including those of alien abductions. Number 10, though the dreams are exceptional, you've always had trouble sleeping, didn't have a big need for sleep, and getting to sleep could be very difficult to kind of unplug. Most starseeds end up being night owls because of that and feel more focused and at peace at night. Often see repeating numbers these are really common for starseeds, that synchronicity with numerology, etc. You get, we've talked a lot about that's like a lot of times signs from your guides that kind of get your attention onto something. that things are lining up in certain ways and they have certain meanings for them ascribed to them. And so that's very common from an early age for them to notice that, where most kids tend to be kind of oblivious to that sort of stuff that's around them, but they pay attention to it. So at number 12, you feel different, lonely, or isolated in this world as if you're from somewhere else. You just don't ever feel like you fit in anywhere. And it's not related to depression or anxiety issues that can be ruled out. And you just, whether you're not a team player, you don't play well with others, whatever, it just doesn't feel right to be part of everybody else. You don't resonate or vibrate with them. And you just stay on the outside looking in and watching more than not. You're more like constantly perplexed by human behavior and how people can't see it. So there's a lot of time spent trying to figure that out. Number 13, you feel a strange longing for home. People report upon hearing they're a starseed that they kind of immediately know it's true, that they don't. I mean, I saw this a couple of years ago happen, that there was a trend, at least on Facebook anyway, of people like resonating and jumping on this bandwagon of I'm a starseed, and wanting those who have psychic gifts to identify for them where they're from. And I'm like, that's not how this game is supposed to be played here. And you're misinterpreting it. And it's, again, a difference between people who are tired of seeing how things are carried out here in our country, around the world, can see a need for change, and they can't understand where people are so mean to each other. They don't want to be a part of the race because of that. That's different, though, than being a starseed. Being fed up with the way things have been, that is a different level thing than this. And again, you shouldn't need someone else who has gifts to identify all of that for you. There comes a time with genuine starseeds where you just kind of know it's true and you understand it. It's like like I said, like an alarm going off inside of you when your vibration gets raised after having your awakening. So number 14, you have a natural ability to make others feel better. They're deeply powerful healers, whether it is energetically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, physically. They tend to be, it tends to be more with the emotional and spiritual side of things that they help heal people. But it comes natural to them to do that. So that's a thing. They have a deep connection to animals and nature and can communicate with animals easily, at least on some level. And they get energized by the environment. It rejuvenates on every level. I definitely can understand that for me, whether it's the woods or the ocean, I don't care. It doesn't matter to me, but both are home. And it's only there in those places where I feel absolutely complete with the energy. It does rejuvenate me and make me feel refreshed, makes me feel connected, and I'm happy in those places. So number 16, you have no patience for small talk. You may already know what the other person will say before they say it. Those damn psychics, 17, people's first impression of you oftentimes isn't a positive one. A lot of times you get labeled as like a know-it-all, or you think you're a big deal and you're trying to talk down to people, or that your way is the only way there is. And it's not that at all. It's that you see a better way to do it that you suggest and are trying to teach that, but it's not a, hey, your way is absolutely wrong. But it gets misinterpreted a lot of times. They may find you cold or strange. Once they get to know you, they see how loving you are. But on the surface, you oftentimes make it labeled as, hey, you're such a bitch, or you're an asshole, or you're just very cold and calculating. That's not it at all. It's just you're aware of more. Number 18, they don't do well dealing with large crowds. Through the energy of it, it's overwhelming, which is part of the empath piece of it. Number 19, you have few friends, but those you do connect on such a deep soul level with them. Number 20, the body feels more limiting, like you're stuck inside of it. Like it's, you're stuffed in this form and It doesn't feel right. It's not as fluid enough. It's not roomy enough. You just feel crowded and cramped in it and limited. Number 21, people often see you as the old soul that you are. Number 22, sometimes your body is an enigma to you with the way it acts, responds, whatever. It just kind of like you're not understanding because it's the first time you may have had a human form. Page stick. Oh, and sometimes the way the body reacts and functions differently can also be an enigma to the medical professionals. They can't understand, hey, this person heals differently or heals quickly or in different ways than an average person might respond to different procedures, etc. You just don't react to things the same way. You may have unusual growth things on your bodies, moles, birthmarks in the shape of different things. There's just an unusual aspects to your physique that the average person doesn't get. Sometimes the symptoms that someone has with an illness as a starseed can be difficult for them to be able to explain because it may be on a more energetic level that they, that the English language, and we all have heard this before, that it falls short in many ways with the higher dimensional thinking and that higher consciousness, that it's limiting. And so they have trouble finding a way to explain what's going on, what the symptoms are and where they're coming from, how they're manifesting within them. They know, but to express it outward is difficult. 23, they may have an extreme sensitivity to temperatures, both hot and cold. 24, they may bruise easily without explanation. Yes, we all have or know people who bruise and you see it and you're like, oh my God, where did I get that from? And you have no real memory of it. That's common with them. Number 25, you may have unusual birthmarks, like I said, or moles somewhere on you that forms interesting designs. Sometimes it can even mimic a constellation. If you drew lines between things, you can kind of see a different constellation in a design, and that can be indicative of maybe where they're from. Sorry. Oftentimes people use the term light worker and starseed interchangeably, but there is a subtle difference between them. So this can be confusing, so I'll go slow with it. All starseeds are light workers, but not all light workers are starseeds. Light workers originate from places above the physical plane, but they're not too far out from it, whereas starseeds can be way, way out from it. So starseeds can be are light workers, but not all light workers are starseeds. And there are different starseed races that are thought to be where these beings come from, or the people identify themselves through different means of connecting the knowing behind it. And those are the Pleiadians, the Sirians, the Lyrians, the Andromedas, Avens, Venusians, Polarians, Arcturians, Orions, Reptilians, Alpha Centaurians, Minnetonkas, and Hadari. I think I'm saying this right. Hadarians. Hey, Miss Karen. So those are different races that they many times come from. And also they have different missions. Starseeds and light workers being that. Starseeds have a tougher time fulfilling their mission because of difficulty adapting to the lower vibration in the 3D dimension. That's difficult for them because Minnetonka. It's difficult for them to get used to the 3D reality because they are oftentimes old, higher beings. So to come down into the physical plane is difficult for them to adjust to. Hey, Latin? Oh, the spell check changed it. Just like when you say Tanya, it becomes Tonka. So sorry, I lost where I was for a second. Starseeds are here to seed a new consciousness. Light workers are here to raise the vibrations here on Earth, especially during times of struggle. We are here to shine our lights brighter, and oftentimes light workers will find other light workers and kind of come together as a collective of, you develop close bonds with other light workers, and so that your light shines together, and sometimes your missions are meant to cross paths with each other, yeah, on joint ventures for different things, and that becomes known of when the time is needed to know it. So now that we have the foundation of understanding laid down of what starseeds are, indigos, rainbows, crystals, and golden children are all starseeds. They're different generations of starseeds. So let's jump in there. We already covered indigo children, and I think all of you who are here in chat tonight have heard that show. So you should have that foundation with that already. So what are crystal children and rainbow children? We'll start there. And if anybody happened to have missed that show of covering the indigo children and are interested, it's in the archives both for the group as well as the Soma Fusion YouTube channel. And I have a file on my YouTube channel under Donna Gorton called Willows Bend, and it's saved in there as well. So kind of wherever you are. Oh, you did show up. Hi, Charles. I don't know if you want to be called Charles or Charlie, but yeah, I know it's unusual for her to miss. That's not like her. In fact, she's never missed a show in 3 years. So hopefully she is okay. So if you have a preference to being called Charles, let's just throw it out there. So who are they and what are they? So they began coming in really during the 1980s. The indigos, it was said that they came in the 60s and 70s, and that there may have been scouts who came in first. Excuse me for a second. Looks like spam, so let's hang that up. There you are, Sandy. Well, you've been quiet. We've been worried about you. I was going to say, she's never missed a show. That's not like her. Charlie. Okay. You did say you would be here. I actually told everybody about you before you got in here. So welcome. So the indigos, as we, had previously discussed, a lot of them they didn't get identified until the 1970s. And, they have a lot of indigo color in their aura, their energy field. And it said that it's not that they weren't here before then. That's just when they first got labeled and identified as such. So that there may have been scouts here back in the 40s and 50s. We don't know for sure. I think that there are definitely people who can say that, yes, I resonate with the signs of being one is, and fit that, even though they may have been born in the 50s instead of the 60s or 70s. So there's not a solid set mold here for this. So the crystal children began coming in during the 1980s and 90s, and they are considered starseeds just like indigos, but they come from a different perspective. So like the indigos are also named, like I said, because of the color of their auras and their traits. The crystal children are as well. So the indigo, like I said, has, the color indigo blue is in their energy field, and those who can see the energy field can see that color. They also tend to be great clairvoyants and also have high intuition. They're very in tune with their gifts. Crystal children have a crystal like an aura. Okay, so for anybody who knows crystals, and like those stones that they sell that are aura quartz, like they're coated with titanium, etc., and they have kind of that rainbow coloration that glints off of them. I'm not a fan of them personally, but that's how it's said that their auras look, kind of opalescent looking. Some people love them, and it's one of those love them or hate them things. I don't like my stones to be altered in that way by chemicals of any kind or dips and things, but some people love them, and that's okay. So that's what the crystal children's auras are said to look like, is like have an aura coating, like it's their rainbow, opalescent, rainbowy pastel colors in there. Sorry, my allergies, my nose is itching. Let's put the salt lamp on, see if that helps. I did take Sudafed too. So the following are some traits of being a crystal kid. So let's start there. So these children are often very quiet. They're very empathetic. They have heightened telepathic and psychic gifts. They are psychic healers of either the physical, mental, emotional, and sometimes all three things. Like I said, it's not, you know, you don't have to be a physical healer to be, and that's the only thing that qualifies as a healer. Like for me, I heal people emotionally, energetically, and spiritually. I work with people's energy, and that's what helps me to help people. And like whether it's psychologically speaking, therapeutically, or you know, spiritually, etc. I work on that side of things, and they do too. So there are also generous as far as like being spiritual teachers. They're very generous in giving of their time and their teachings. Um, they have a deep connection to nature as well and all living things, which seems to be kind of a common theme amongst all star seeds. They understand that anything living has its own consciousness and is its own sentient being, regardless of what form it may be in. So they respect all living things. Just got an alert for a heat advisory. Holy cow, Karen. Don't slide into the ocean. That's my only qualification for you living out there. That's a no-no. Someone who actually, who's also a group member, she doesn't make it into the shows often because of the time difference. But she was saying how I should come out there to retire. And I said, yeah, that's not too far from Karen. So, so they also have an innate trust in following their hearts. They're heart people. You know, that's what drives them. Like for me, I'm a heart person. Anyone who knows me knows that. Yes, I try to temper that with logic when it's applicable, but my heart still is the leader, and it's part of who I am, and it's not something I've ever been able to change. Yeah, we don't want her doing that, do we, Tanya? Or Tonka? So they can become disconnected, though, because of being heart people and taking everything so is intense emotionally for them, which I also can understand that. You know, you're just an intense person when you are a heart person. You feel everything so deeply, and that is part of them with these children. But they can be disconnected when get overwhelmed. You got to back off and kind of take care of you in order to recharge. So they're very sensitive to things like processed foods, chemicals, environmental toxins. They have a negative effect on these kids, and they don't do well with them, and that ends up playing out in their physicality, you know, with getting like an autism diagnosis, let's say, where sensory input is seen as being a challenge for them when it really isn't. It's just how we're viewing it and trying to put the round peg into the square hole. It's not going to fit, but we still try to do that with these kids. So they can also get grumpy and out of sync when they're away from nature for too long. Kick these kids outside to play. They've got to have that, or else they're not happy. They don't like being cooped up inside. So like indigos and rainbows, crystal children are also old souls. They're very wise beyond their years. They are very affectionate, easy kids to bond with, and have come to bring peace to the planet as part of their mission. So they're also especially sensitive to sound, the emotions of others, to colors. So, you know, we all know about color therapy and things like that. That can affect your mood. They're very sensitive to that. Whereas most of us, we don't pay much attention to that. If a hospital room is painted blue or green, it's whatever. We don't care. But these kids can get impacted by it. They're also prone to a lot of anxiety, and they yearn to create balance and peace where there is none. So if things are out of balance for them, that affects them like off the charts. And so being into like a stable home where things are copacetic, that's what the environment these kids need. And oftentimes they're born into those types of families that are like that because they have to have that balance and peace. If not, they're going to create it and fight that to put it in place. You notice colors, and colors impact my mood. For some people, they're very sensitive to that. These kids are too. And I don't know what year you were born in, so you might be a crystal kid. I don't think you're that young, but maybe. Yeah, and I think that it's not limited to crystal children that are sensitive to that sort of thing. It seems like a lot of these types of traits are kind of universal. All of these kids have common threads that bind them together, but there are differences that set them apart as well that make them unique unto themselves. So they all have a different mission, is really the biggest piece of it. Um, they can be nonverbal as they are highly intuitive. They often know what others think and feel, and or they're going to say it. They're telepathic. They pick up on things, random thoughts, and that people are thinking. You're born in 75, so you could be a crystal child, just born like one of the scouts that they talk about. If any of these resonate with you, anyway. Yeah, I thought that was something a little wondered about colors as well. Yeah. So you are highly verbal, but these as kids that they're late developing verbal skills because of being so telepathic. They know what people are feeling and thinking before it gets said. So they don't rely on verbalism to communicate as much as average kids do. So it's just, just like there's lots of times you and I can look at each other, Karen. I know exactly what the hell you're thinking. And, I usually give you the eyeball or I laugh at you or point at you. So, I got you. I hear you. I can't explain it. I don't know the why of it. We're on the same, I think it's an energetic vibrational thing that when it matches with each other, that's when telepathy becomes much more easy to flow between two people. It's less common if you're out of sync vibrationally, but when you match somebody else's, it just kind of happens. And I hear random thoughts. I mean, I don't go into someone's head looking for it unless they give me permission, but that's a whole separate other discussion on that. So they can cause concern with their parents because of not beginning to talk until at least after age 2, and again can also be diagnosed possibly with autism due to not being verbal until a later age like 3 or 4. I've always talked verbally and non-verbally. Right. Hey, Miss Stacy, how are you, sis? And I mean, I remember actually my daughter was the opposite, where at her 2-year well baby check, I remember her doctor being like, looking at me like, what the hell did you do to this child? And I said, what? He said, she just told me a story. I said, uh-huh. And he said, 2-year-olds don't do that. I said, what do you mean? He said, 2-year-olds barely even talk in complete sentences, never mind be that verbal. And I said, I don't baby talk her. And she doesn't know a word, we stop. And I explain it to her till she knows it and can add it to her vocabulary. So it's not unusual to me. I'm used to it, I guess, but I didn't see it as something special. But she was well advanced compared to some others in that way. So oftentimes they're also musical and may sing well before actually speaking. They're more comfortable singing, and having music for them is very therapeutic and calming and healing. So a lot of times, and we touched on that when we did the show on yep. What was that show? I'm just blanking on the word now for it. Although you have those people on the autism spectrum where they have one skill that is off the freaking charts, but they're well below average everywhere else. And a lot of them are nonverbal, but you put them in a piano, they taught themselves to play piano overnight, and then they can belt out a tune and be in tune with it and know all the words just from hearing it once. They have like that tuning into it. These kids can be like that too. Hey, Miss Ronnie, how are you, beautiful? My brain was the opposite when I was born. My brain supposedly developed faster than the rest of me. I used to have convulsions from it. Supposedly my brain is 6 months older than me. Well, see, you flippin' genius. Savants. Thank you, Ronnie. I was like, I know it's an S word and I couldn't pull it forward there. Please don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you have troubles with the Facebook feed, go to YouTube Live. Correct. Thank you, Katie. So, many also of these kids choose to be vegan or vegetarian due to the true love of all things in nature. And again, of understanding that they are all, every organic being has its own sentient consciousness and awareness, and that is respected. And so they become restless when they're made to stay inside because they feel more whole and closely bonded outside. And they also often have very close bonds with animals. Those who get labeled as being on the autism spectrum, oftentimes they're given like a therapy animal, and there is such a unique intimate bond between those two that it's like almost like a soulmate bond with an animal, because they're communicating non-verbally, and they have that ability to sense each other's emotional states, moods, and so forth, and intervene. Well, you are beautiful too, Miss Ronnie. So they also, crystal children need alone time. They've got to be able to pull back in order to have time to recharge, much like empaths do, which I think in this case, this is more what it's tied to, is being an empath, because, we can give and give and give too much. Oh, thank you, my love. We are sexy motherfuckers in here. And see, I can say that because this is my show. Wahaha. Facebook doesn't take offense to that as of yet. So I think that the alone time part is because of the high empathic state that they're in all the time. We want to fix the world and help everybody. And we will, there's always going to be one more person who needs help. And I myself have had that experience of being like, given too much, to where I've had a full-on flare-up for you that lasted a couple of weeks. And that was my attention getter to say, I've got to take care of me in order to take care of everybody else. And if I start seeing me slide off track, I've got to pull back and understand there's always going to be one more person, and I can't save everybody. But I have to take care of me in there too, or else it's not going to work, and I can't continue doing that which I'm here to do. So but they have to have that. We are all Mary, absolutely. We are. Hi, Miss Renee. How are you, love? So these children should have a space to retreat to that's just theirs, and that until they're ready to rejoin others, that they have enough time to rejuvenate, and that's like their safe space. And it doesn't always have to be their room. Some kids, it could be a closet, it could be a hallway on the other side of the house, somewhere they can pull back, spend a few minutes, recollect themselves, and then rejoin everybody. But they have to have that separate space that's just their safe zone, if you will. Sorry, I've got like this stray hair that's like wrapped around me here. I learned that part the hard way. Exactly. And, if I go into a flare up, nobody cares. Nobody worries about that for me. I mean, yes, there are those of you who share the same health issue that I have, that, you know what that means to go into a full flare up. It sucks. But the rest of the world doesn't care. They still want to keep taking more, help me more, and do this more for me. And it doesn't matter. Nobody else has to deal with the outcome of that besides you who has it. And it's a crappy place to be. And I don't volunteer to step into that lightly. So I've learned it the wrong way. Did I get a haircut? I just relayered it. I often do, like when it comes time to get rid of that gray again, I'll relayer it. That's it. Because it doesn't curl up as well when it's all one length. It's like naturally wavy and curly, and it stays better if I have it layered. So they have a magnetic personality. People are drawn to these kids. Ooh, sexy. I'm a sexy mama. Thank you. they have a magnetic personality that people are just drawn to them, and they may not even know why, and usually they don't understand why. People, they find them and they're drawn to them, and they know. um, exactly, it is a little different taking care of yourself and making time for you. It's a must, because we can't, otherwise the well will run dry and your batteries get discharged and you got nothing left to give. And I I know the signs when I'm not eating right, I'm not taking enough time to get enough sleep, or getting to bed later, just constantly like giving and giving, and at all hours of the night, people messaging me and, "Hey, can you help me? I got a question. I got a question, and I need this and I need that. And hey, can you answer this for me? Or please stop everything you're doing right now, because I have this crisis that is so big, it goes beyond anything else." I had one person actually, when I told him I hadn't eaten in almost 2 days and I was exhausted as well, that I needed to get something to eat, they didn't care. They still wanted me to drop everything to do a reading for their friend. I'm like, do you know how disrespectful that is, that you're actually saying that to me, that like that doesn't matter to you? Like, sorry, but we're not going to do that. And if you want to wait a couple hours for me to recharge my batteries, I'm happy to help them, but sorry, but no. Your crisis is never a big crisis, and it always could have waited. I think I in that instance I gave them 10 minutes. I said 10 minutes, and that's it. If that's not resolved in that point, then I'm done and I'm going to get supper. It was not a crisis. It was not an emergency by any standard. It could have waited. We're too sexy and we know it. We do know it. That explains why the strange and unusual find me all the time. I'm 4'11" in a crowd and they still find me. See more. Thankfully, Hubs is used to it. That is good that he's used to it. My butt may look big the closer you are. Objects in the rearview mirror are closer than they appear. So these crystal kids, they have a sparkle in their eyes that people notice. No, I did. I said, you got 10 minutes and then I'm disconnecting whether we're done or not. And then I gave the woman hell afterward to say, do you understand what you just did to me in a position you tried putting me in? Not cool. Do not ever, ever approach me with something like this again. Your friend's crazy, and I like that takes way more help than I'm willing to give to this person, because they're not going to hear it anyway. They're not ready to. So this was not a crisis situation. And you tried convincing me otherwise, but yeah, sorry, no. She got blasted. And wondrously, I haven't heard from her since. No, I demand respect if it's not given to me, which most of you are wonderful about that. And, you don't ever take advantage of me in that way, which is hugely appreciated. But there are those that don't care. So these kids have like magnetic eyes that draw people in. They're sparkling, giving readings to mentally ill. It's on the one hand, Karen, is not because of my background. I've got my bachelor's of science degree in psychology, and I focused on abnormal psychology as part of my studies. So I know how to. I'm really good at identifying mental issues, anything mental health related. I bells go off and I peg it quickly. And when that is the case, I recognize that there are times where that is getting in the way of putting a particular lens in front of their eyes with how they're viewing things. And it has nothing to do with what they actually are assigning it to as a problem. And it really is more just their brain's wired differently, and that's why they perceive it as such. And in that case, I'm honest about it. And I, had that discussion with more than one person before. So you can't really give a full reading to somebody like that. Ever got a real disturbing reading? Disturbing how? Define disturbing. So these kids can be vulnerable to being bullied, but they still will feel empathy for the bully, understanding that, they're unhappy and that's why they're doing it. But how does one decipher if what they are talking about is real or part of the mental illness? Because there are certain diagnostic criteria with each mental health disorder that is very clear cut. And so when you're starting to see more and more of those crop up in the discussion with them, then it becomes apparent that that is like the real thing. Like, okay, for example, I had this one woman who contacted me. She was seeing demons everywhere she went, literally everywhere she went out in public. They would appear to her on a sidewalk. They would open like they were flashing her or something, and have children under their arms like they were kidnapping them, that type of thing. And in a church, on top of buildings like gargoyles, in her home. Through discussing with her, it became obvious that, she displayed like textbook symptoms of schizophrenia. And here and there, she had kind of mentioned that, she had a history of hospitalization, which led me to further ask, well, what kind of hospitalizations? And I said, okay, so what was the diagnosis given? And she said, well, they kept trying to say I was schizophrenic. So basically, they're having the same outlook on you through multiple hospitalizations. And that's what I'm also identifying with you. So isn't it then possible that this is the real thing that's wrong? And it's not that you're totally broken and, you're crazy. Not saying that, saying that your brain's wired differently than the rest of us. And I would recommend getting treatment for that. I still scanned her area in her apartment just to be sure, but there wasn't anything there. And you know me, I'm going to be honest, good or bad, what I detect with that. There's some old lady, it was like an apartment complex. There was an elderly woman who would patrol things, that kind of a busybody, who would feel like it was her job to keep an eye on things, to make sure everybody was behaving the way they should. And she just kind of paced around, going up and down the stairs, and, wander around outside of the apartment complex. That is the only soul being I picked up in that entire thing related to her. And yeah, she was schizophrenic. She admitted towards the end that yes, it is possible that I need to take a closer look at this. So it, takes time to work through it if I'm going to tackle it. And one that is a dangerous reading. Again, define dangerous and spine chilling. Like, I don't perceive any reading I do as dangerous. I have no fear of getting hurt by anything, and I'm never at risk for that. I think there's a gray area between real and mental illness. In some cases, and back in the old days, if you displayed even psychic gifts, you were labeled as schizophrenic and locked away for that. But there are validly those that are schizophrenic, and they have, auditory hallucinations, which means they hear things. They have visual hallucinations, and they see things that tell them, voices that tell them to do certain things that can be dangerous. And so, again, it's through knowing what the symptoms of a mental health issue is, to be able to say, oh, bingo, they have that. Bingo, they have, oh, there's that one too. And oh, yep, they experience that too. And then you kind of delve into some of the history of it to identify it. And I've always had a good track record with identifying mental health issues in people. I mean, back when I was a caseworker, I would refer people a lot of times to the mental health clinic, and they would always say, you're always spot on with it. You were right. And I check back in to see what your diagnosis to the record. You were right. It's blah, blah, blah. You were right. You're blah, blah. Well, women used to be locked up for having an opinion at one point. Oh, absolutely. If you got moody during your period, if you enjoyed sex, that was a problem. If you, anything involving emotions with a woman, we can't have that. And you can't also, can't enjoy sex because that's supposed to be a job you're doing for your man, and that's your role. Whatever. Freud has his own set of issues with that, with women. The witch hunts. Yep. Oh, okay, you've already answered in a way. You never felt bad or reading on the sense the person was dangerous. No, I don't, because I take steps to protect myself. I'm very well guarded and protected through my guides and through other people's assistance in that area on this plane. I have no fear about facing anything because I'm protected. I can't be harmed in that way. So what doesn't matter whether it's an interdimensional being I'm dealing with or a soul being, a human spirit, doesn't matter. I don't care. Like, I don't get intimidated. You like to read books, right? Exactly. If you had an education, if you use clitoral stimulation for mental health, exactly. Yeah. Well, that was a no-no. You can't have anything in the no-no zone. No go. like I said, I think Freud had his own issues with that stuff. So with sexuality and women, issues with women and their identifying them, mommy issues probably, you know, the Oedipus complex and stuff. I don't resonate with him at all. Inspiring and talking about clitoral stimulation, or in the rest of it. Something should be brought back, correct? Yeah, exactly, Ronnie, a mommy's boy, or having, you know, unhealthy relationships with his mother. Wink, wink, nod, nod. Um, I don't know exactly what his past history was, but it wasn't, his view of women was incorrect and way off base. Now, his student, Carl Jung, he was bloody genius, and he's actually the main form of therapy that's followed today therapeutically in clinics across the world. And he also was kind of spiritual as well, which the two didn't ever marry back then. So he was very revolutionary when he started putting out his theory in how he viewed things. And he didn't discount spirituality, much like Freud would say, lock him away. Carl Jung said, well, you know, why couldn't this be possible? Or maybe there is more to this. So I'm definitely a student of Jung. Yes, absolutely. So, crystal children. As adults, crystals and indigo children, they tend to be more laid back people. They roll with it. You wonder, what about Tesla, Sandy? His issues with women or something else? Him being a starseed. He he had issues with women too, with um, believing women should conduct themselves in a prim and proper way, and if they did not, they were hoes, essentially. So many crystal children can also have difficulty maintaining eye contact, which can leave people feeling that, like, if they make eye contact and lock eyes with someone genuinely, it can make someone feel like their soul has been read, which in all actuality it has. And I've done that with people too, and it does kind of freak them out. Is he part alien? I don't think alien per se, but I think he got downloads, and he was tuned in to things that he didn't know where they came from. He still was very scientific about things and how he viewed it, but he couldn't explain where he got a lot of those things from that he got. That mindset is still a lot of people's minds. Yeah. Yes. And I'm very all for empowerment of women on all levels and anywhere. They are equal with men in most ways. Now, there are physical differences and also in how the parts of the brain get access between male and female most of the time. But that aside, we're still equal on other levels. So anyhow, so again, with the locking of the eyes thing, a lot of people have trouble making eye contact with them because they feel like their souls just got read and like, oh my God, and they can't explain it, but it kind of scares them. But it, because their soul has been read, they are locking with them on that level, and people don't know what to do with that without having a previous understanding going into it, what they're doing. Then it can freak them out. Yeah, Einstein, yeah, he would say that he would just kind of zone out, and he would just kind of go elsewhere, and something would pull him to it, and he would see these things before his eyes but not be able to explain it. No man is better than anyone just because he has a penis. Exactly. I first thought that said pencil. So exactly, we're very intuitive, Kim. But part of that too is with women, we are allowed to be centered and expected to be emotional beings, where men are always taught to shut it off and shut it down. And, oh, you know, you're okay, dust off your big boy, get back up and don't be a wuss, and, you know, don't cry, and that's not okay. Whereas women are encouraged and expected to be emotional creatures. Now, I look twice. Sometimes that bifocal line distorts things a little bit. I bet my penis is bigger than the majority of men. Most likely. We got, you know, the lady balls. Tiny can be better than anyone. Half the planet has the same sex organ as you. Well, there actually statistically is more women in the world than men. We outnumber you guys like 5-1. So, crystal kids can also tell if someone is being truthful or not, and living with an open heart, like they are able to identify that in people. If you're a bullshit artist, they're gonna know, and you can't fool them. You can't get it past them. They're also the most forgiving generation of kids. So when they don't see the point of blame, like they don't look at things from like it's your fault and all that. It's not that for them. They have a deep yearning for peace. So blame is a waste of time to these kids. So there is no blaming of anybody. It's yes, the expectation you'll take responsibility if you did mess up, okay, but they want peacefulness. So there's not pointing fingers at everybody, it's all your fault type of attitude. Exaggerated how. So they're also quite fearless and can see beyond the limitations of the physical world. They know. There's a knowing. They can have an authoritative air about them as adults and understand the one unity consciousness very clearly. Last time I told someone to suck my dick, she said I didn't have one. I replied, I have a drawer full. What color you want? That is an atypical Karen response. Tie my pecker to a tree, tie my pecker to a tree. I have not heard that one before, Renee. It sounds a mighty uncomfortable thing to do, though. Just saying. So often these people seem like sages and teachers. Even as young people, they have that draw to them. And, that I think when I was doing the research for this myself, now I first had encountered Indigo Children and what they are, and have discussed it many times with other people, private conversation and stuff, and always thought that I really resonated with that. And it was only maybe like one trait that I really didn't resonate with as being an indigo child, and I have been told I have indigo in my aura. That said, after covering the crystal children, I have a lot of those as well, and there are some cross things to it, but again, they do have some unique aspects to them. And like with the needing that balance and not blaming, I detest drama. I detest fighting among people and arguing, and I just want to stop and like restore peace, because I hate that fighting with each other. So, and I've always been a teacher from back as I was a teenager, the first time I started teaching anything and helping with that stuff. So I have a little bit of both qualifications. Or traits, I should say, not qualifications. So other traits that crystal children can have, they are fascinated by crystals like stones. I don't know what they're talking about with that, but I don't have enough hands. But wait, there's more. Some in my pocket, I think, too. Yep. Tourmaline and a Herkimer diamond and hydro. I don't know what they mean by fascination with crystals there, but just saying. I'm surrounded. I hate arguing as well. I prefer quiet peace, but I've been told that's middle child syndrome. Middle children can also like to be the blame placers. I'm the youngest, but I have a one in the middle to make me the youngest, and then an oldest. So we got all three things covered with that. He's right here. I mean, I have many skulls, but Timote stays out all the time. So he's always right on the corner of my nightstand. I see more pinkish red in your aura, Donna. I didn't know that you could see them, and it really depends on my mood too, Sandy. The only other person I've ever had really look at my aura clearly and correctly. I do have a lot of the pinkish red because I'm a heart person, and that's the place I come from, is love. So that is a big color for me. I feel like I got a cat hair in my nose. Thank you. It is Indigo Gabbro, but there is a being attached to it who's like a sub guide for me. He came to me through the skull, but I use the stone too energetically for different things. But it kind of symbolizes him to me, but he's not stuck to the stone, if that makes sense. That's just how he got to me. My brother's middle child blamed me for things I wasn't born for another 15 years. Blame gamer. Yeah, my brother was very much the same way too. Absolutely. I got blamed for everything because I was the only girl. So, they're fascinated by crystals and could spend hours playing with them. And that's, as you guys know, not even a fraction of my rocks. I got them, they're everywhere. It's the closest color to your body. Yeah, Bonnie has identified it as being like, it's like around the heart chakra area. And that, because that is my center with all things, is I walk in love. That's my primary emotion for things. So like when I give someone a heart, when I'm talking to them, that's a valid thing. I feel love for the person and I'm going to express that. So yes, they are fascinated by crystals and could spend hours playing with them because they're connected energetically to them, and they see them and recognize them as being, that they are sentient beings with their own consciousness, and so they work with that. I was the blame receiver. I'd take the blame and take the heat off them and restore the peace. My brothers were always the instigators, and yes, I would try to defend myself, but it was always ultimately me getting the blame as the only girl. I thought green was the heart chakra. I'm not saying like that's in replacement of the heart chakra, but I'm saying like my heart chakra area, because or my center, how's that? We'll use that term instead, because I come from love and I come from in all things I do. Like I don't hate anything or anyone. It's just I'm a heart person. I'm third of four. Yeah. I have two older brothers who were horrendously miserable to me throughout my entire upbringing. I'm the condom broke. What do you mean I'm pregnant? I'm too old for more kids. Yeah, I wasn't expected either. So, I mean, I was a product of rape. So there you go. I certainly was not meant to be here. Well, I was, but not that way. The 6th of 7. It's a lot of kids. So the crystal children can be mistaken as autistic because they don't conform or fit in with other children. They just, because they're above them with intellect, with insight, with emotionality, with psychic gifts, with empathic abilities, with everything. They're at a higher, different vibrational level than average kid is. So they can't conform and fit in with them because they don't resonate with them. So it's always that discord of not liking other children. It's just they can't fit in because they're at a different height. We are separated at a young age. Yeah. I mean, we grew up together. They're my half brothers, but we were raised as no separation between half and whole. Same mother, different fathers. Little girl, did you like give me a cat hair that's stuck in my makeup or something? Because it's like in my nose edge. Well, in West Virginia, it was too cold to do much of anything else. I said that too when I, because I got pregnant in the spring. I'm like, well, we knew what we were doing in the winter cold months there before spring settled in. The 4th of 6, all girls. I know that must have been kind of like, well, but then again, guys always blame that. Like, I should have had a son. Hey, the guy's the one who determines the gender of the child. So if you have all girls, that's the guy's doing. I'm trying to think of, I don't know of your other sister. You talked about her before, but I've never met her. You tried hard this time. Yeah. So these crystal children also tend to have large penetrating eyes. They are artistic, not autistic. I mean, they're mistaken to be autistic, but they're very artistic and highly creative children. Often they have very vivid memories of their past lives. They can also clearly communicate to higher beings and with their guides. So kind of like how I'm able to communicate with mine, these guys can do the same thing, but usually from childhood onward, where I was 21 by the time I actually started connecting to mine. My mom, two of each out. Two of each out. What do you mean, Karen? There was 6 girls and 1 boy, 2 if you count me as a huge tomboy. I kind of was in between with that tomboy stuff. Like I was set aside that, oh, that wasn't for a girl to do. Gender identity was a big thing in my family, which always pissed me off to no end. And my brothers could go do it because they were boys, but I couldn't because I was a girl. Aren't I 21 now? You're funny. No, that was long ago and far away. 3 older sisters than me. Faith, Amanda is the baby. I know you obviously, Faith and Amanda, but I don't think I've ever met any of the other older ones. Mom pushed 2 of each out. Oh, gotcha. I was like, she did what? My mom, 2 of each. What? So, let's see. These kids as children, the crystal children, can have sort of a self-created sign language when they communicate, because a lot of the communication can be telepathic. They're not as verbal. So they can kind of do a lot of talking with their hands. I'll set up mine now. They can resist falling asleep at night. They dislike clutter and disorganization. And their auras usually consist of a multi-pastel shades. Wasn't a joke, but okay. No, I'm 50 years old. I was a huge tomboy too, would rather climb trees than play with dolls. I never had many of those toys, like girl toys, available to play with. I mean, we grew up quite poor, so I never had regular, quote, baby dolls. I had a few Raggedy Anns, and that's about it. Or a Barbie doll. The one and only. My daughter's the only child. I was born in 22 minutes. There was nothing stopping me. There still isn't. That is correct. That is correct. So, yeah, no, I'm 50 years old. Thank you for thinking I'm 21, but that was long ago and far away. Nope, we love our Karen. So they often have a numerology life path number, which you guys have had me work with you on that. And there is stuff in the group in the guides tab under numerology to help you figure it out if you haven't before, and to define and explain that. So they have a life path often of 11, 22, 33, 44, or 7. Mine's 7. And a baby doll and baby guns. Yeah, I got beat up for playing with my brother's toys, but I don't have many girl toys. Jeanette, Janine, and Tina. I have not met them yet. In fact, I mean, I definitely know you 3, but yeah, nope, never had anything to do with them. 15, you look amazing. Well, thank you. I'm 2 of 2. My brother is older, yeah. No, my brothers and I are all 18 months apart. I mean, I bless your heart for thinking I'm 21, but yeah, no, that was many, many moons ago. I was born back in 71, so yeah. They can often see the dead as well as higher beings, and as kids are often thought to have imaginary friends, which is not actually imaginary. They're talking to other soul beings and the higher beings. They're here to help raise the planet's vibration one moment at a time, and that's their mission. So from there onward to Rainbow Children. So Rainbow Children, who are they? They are often actually born to crystal children, much like Indigo Children often have the crystal children more times than not, because there's an interconnectivity here. So you see the running theme. they're all star seeds. So one star seed is going to usually beget another star seed, because in having a parent as a star seed, you're going to have that unique understanding to recognize the behaviors. Even if you don't consciously know them, you're able to better adapt to deal with them. But that said, of course, they can be born to, regular human parents, but oftentimes they're not. So typically, they're all offspring of each other, like the next generation of each one. My brother was born in 71 too, so he'd be 51 in March. Yeah, my birthday's in June, so I'm rocking 50 for now. It's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. So, their full impact of the rainbow children is yet to be seen and known, because if the crystal children were born in the 80s and 90s, the crystal children are just now oftentimes having the rainbow children, or they're young still. So it's still kind of playing out as to just what all of their qualifications and traits are supposed to be. However, that said, the information has been channeled through on what to expect for them. So that's what their traits are known from. There are several of you in here who are much older than I am, and hey, more power to you, and I love each and every one of you, and you know that. So 95, but my parents are from the 60s. Yeah, my daughter was born in 96. So I'm old enough to be your mom. That puts things into perspective, doesn't it? So they came into the world with little or no karma. And remember, karma is not a punisher. It's a rebalancing. So if things get out of balance, karma is meant to hold accountable as well as teach and learn lessons from, and to rebalance things out, because the universe is always about balance and like everything. So they come in with very little or no karma to worry about fixing. They haven't at all incarnated here before. That is true. You may not always act that. Their auras have a rainbow hue to them. They are the embodiment of rainbow energy and are bringing it to us inside or out, like whether you're inside like housing or outside nature. It's like a living rainbow walking around. So upon looking into their enormous eyes, they have like very big, deep set eyes. You feel the embodiment of divinity by staring into their eyes. Well, it's true. My daughter was born in 1996, meaning that you're only a year older than her, which actually I take that back. She just turned 26 in January, the end of January. So therefore she's 26. So you'd be about what, 27. So yeah, I'm old enough to be your mom. Age is just a number, and it's how you carry yourself. Born in 63 and Linda was born in 80. So, you very well could be an indigo, Sandy, and her possibly be a crystal child. That would be you as her mom to say, do all those traits resonate from her or no? And not every indigo went on to have a crystal child. I'll throw that out there too. That's not like every single one. It varied, It's a random draw. We do choose our parents before, like in our soul contract, before coming into that life. They have specific things that we are to either as entry into this plane of existence, or we have things to learn from them in being raised by them and have that impact. And then sometimes when that's done, like my kid, they went on their way and cut ties, and others stay connected. But not every one of these went on to have one of these kids, the next generation of kids. So they are, upon looking into their enormous eyes, they have deep set eyes. You feel like they're the embodiment of divinity. You kind of can get lost in their eyes, just like how with crystal and indigo children. When you are, for me, it's like a specific exercise you do with people, where you focus just on the eyes to the exclusion of everything else, and just stare into someone's eyes and let that energy flow back and forth. And you are connecting to them on a soul level at that point. And you are reading their soul at that point. But this is like You feel like you're staring into the eyes of something sacred, I guess would be another way of saying that for rainbow children. Well, you are young looking enough, so age definitely doesn't matter. Thank you, but I also have makeup on, and I'm sitting back from the camera, so you don't see all the wrinkles, and I do color my hair, so I get rid of the gray. I was born in 76. Yeah. So you're only, what, 5 years younger than me? I was 63. You're beautiful. Thank you, Marianne. So they are also even more telepathic than crystal or indigos are. They communicate that way more often than not, and kind of can creep people out because, like, how did you know? I was just going to say that. That becomes a common thing, which many of you, like Tanya, is always pointing that out, that I say what she was going to ask right before she was going to ask it, or I answer her question as she's still getting ready to speak it. You spawned. You're funny. So I only got 4 years on you, Karen. So they have a natural healing ability that usually comes through their hands, and it affects all areas that may need healing, whether it's physical, spiritual, emotional, mental. They kind of they do the healing with their hands, like they may be Reiki healers, whatever. They can send healing energy, they can make the healing energy balls, etc. But it comes through their hands rather than from a heart place being sent to them that way. They do it through their hands, but they can heal in whatever way someone might need healing in. Yep, all the time. Shirts have wrinkles, you have beauty marks. I have that same thermos as well. Really? This one? It's funny. It's a good cup. Sorry. So their intuition comes from their feminine side, but they are really in touch with both masculine and feminine energies, but the intuition part of them comes through that. I don't use retinol actually, but I've never actually tried it. Huh, that's funny. It's a Walmart special. So signs and more traits of rainbow children. Okay. They choose to be born into stable families, whereas indigo children tend to be born into dysfunctional ones. That's a commonality. And Lord have mercy, I definitely was born into a dysfunctional family. I have energy that comes through my hands, and it has always been there. Had yoga instructor touch my energy and asked me about it after class. Wow. So yeah, it's a common thing with the rainbow children. But crystal children are also healers as well. I'm stuck in it. I have a like a specific moisturizer I use, but I don't think it has retinol in it. But something I only put on after my shower. I don't put it on every time I wash my face. So, they accept their psychic gifts as like it's just part of who they are and it's part of their everyday life. So they don't see themselves as being different. In fact, it can kind of be a mind-blowing thing when they learn that not everybody does the things that they do. They tend to be very hyper and have a lot of energy, and they're drawn to bright colors, and the brighter the better, like the colors of the rainbow, like they like it loud. Their male and female characteristics are balanced, hence the emergence of the gender neutral culture. So this is important. Now, we've been seeing that, right? And a lot of people have been coming forward with, what's your pronoun? And they want to be called they, or they're born into a girl's body, but they feel like they should have been born a male, or vice versa. So they're saying that rainbow children are behind that gender neutral culture, where they don't want to own a specific one, or they're not comfortable being in what they were born as. So they're saying that comes from the rainbow kids. It's one of your awkward moments, I'm sure, but were you aware that you had that ability, Karen, like before they pointed it out? I mean, it takes someone who is on the same vibrational level to pick that up in others. I'm fitting into the rainbow child. I'm probably a scout. You very well could be. You absolutely very well could be. So, let's see. They gravitate toward other rainbow children. They shrug off low energy vibrations and keep moving. So if they encounter that, they're not interested in anything low vibrational stuff, drama, people who reside in a low vibrational place of, constant anxiety and depression all the time and are just always bemoaning their lives on every point, and their pity parties their way of life. They move away from that, and they resonate. They want the higher vibrational people. Been aware forever, yeah. So, and I think all of these have had scouts to come in before to say, is the world ready? Is it the right time to have the full force of them start to be born into that generation? So just like with indigos, there, that was one of the first things I taught you guys about, that was that there may have been scouts that came in before that to see, is it the right time for the others to come through? So with each of these, yes, there absolutely could be scouts who were there before to say, is this the right time for us to be born? That's the first I showed Hubs, I tickled his organs. He decided to tell his entire family too. Yeah, that would be unusual, but it's cool that he accepted that in you. And that's how you knew he was probably a keeper, that said he wasn't scared off by that. So, they have an innate understanding of the connectivity of all that is, again, that one unity consciousness. They understand everything is connected energetically and it resides on that level. We're all strands of the same web, and if something happens to the one strand, well, it weakens the web and will soon befall the rest of it. So everything's interconnected. They know this. Whilst they have the same sort of eyes as crystal children, they don't judge when they look into your soul. It's more like they observe who you are, but they don't assess. How's that? To me, that's a better word than judging. It's not so much that crystal children are judging you, they're reading and assessing who you are by your soul self. Whereas the rainbow children don't do that. They just observe more than not. They're not overly sporty, as they're not interested in competition with others. They forgive easily. Acceptance is practiced as the highest form of forgiveness. They are strong willed. They are focused on their reason for being here, and anything else is a distraction to them. They may not talk until 3 to 4 years old because of the advancement of the telepathic communication. They don't feel there's a need, so they don't really start kind of grasping that, hey, everybody else doesn't communicate this way, I have to learn this way too. And then they kind of concede to it, so they don't really start talking until they're 3 or 4 years old. They are tuned into the cosmos and are quite aware of what is going on around them. It's not a lack of knowing when they don't speak until 3 or 4. They're very observant. However, they just don't feel the need to talk. So like their crystal parents, they are also fearless in nature. And their mission for the rainbow children is to heal the planet and help to restore the balance between the world and the people who live here. They teach by example. They are part of the collective of light workers here to create a network of high vibrational energy to stretch around the world. We are predominantly still in the wave of the crystal children, becoming more aware of their purpose in being here. Like a lot of them are just kind of having that aha through having their awakening. So they're becoming aware of their reason for being here, but they're bringing more and more of the rainbow children in them giving birth. So because of how late they develop with speech, the rush is to label them as autistic, but parents should resist labeling them as such because there very often is other reasons behind it. So parents of a rainbow child should never try to force them into being what they're not. They should allow them to express their psyche. Read my writing. Oh, any way that they want to, like whatever feels right for them, then let them have that as their way of expressing things. They do well with being homeschooled, where they're able to set their own educational agendas to where labels do suck, absolutely. So they do better being homeschooled, but not necessarily following an atypical agenda with things like, when you homeschool a child, you have to work with the state and turn in certain material to demonstrate you're covering the basics with your kid. But that's kind of a necessary evil when homeschooling your child. I had actually had wanted to homeschool my daughter originally, and well, don't spill, too late. I spilled. However, situation didn't allow for it as a single mom. Sorry, I overflowed my cup and I made a mess. So give me 1 second to mop up my dribbles everywhere. Did I get it on the floor too? Probably. Oh, I think it all landed on me in the bed. Oh yeah. No, I mean I've done that at sorry, that went down the wrong hole. That experiment with people to demonstrate when they don't believe me about energy transference and stuff. I've had them, hold their hands above mine while my hands are flat and straight. Where's the lid? And then create an energy ball in their hands for them to feel it. And of course, they're freaked out by it, but whatever, it teaches them. I had one guy, he was a young guy, just barely out of his teens, I think. And he challenged me. He didn't believe me, but he was very disrespectful in doing so. And he started making comments when I was generating the ball to him. So I zapped his ass. Not to hurt him, but to be an attention getter. And it sent him like flying backwards from me and like all freaked out. But I said, don't ever be disrespectful and doubt me like that again, because that's rude and I'm your teacher. So not okay. But yeah, when you hold your hands over someone else's and you make that energy ball happen. Yeah, I've been doing that for a very long time. You can too, yeah. My favorite thing to do is energy balls with others. It pulsates like crazy. Yeah, and you can, form it into whatever shape you want and grow it as big as you want it to grow. You can push it out from you. You can throw it at somebody if you want to, but you can also send it to somebody who needs an energy boost, whatever, or healing, whatever it may be. You set your intention for that, but yeah, us ladies need to energy ball it. That could be fun. Whole new sport. So if you're going to homeschool these children, which they do better with, it is always good to kind of create yes, you got to meet the whole state requirement stuff with things, of course. But aside from that, expose them to cultural things, taking towards the museums, teaching them about different cultures, exposing them on that level of fluidity with their teachings. They do better with that kind of teaching than just sit down and, rote memorization of everything. They're not interested. They don't do well with being boxed in. Karen. So what comes next after this? Now, I actually contacted Chris late when I was the other night when I was doing this research. I figured out that when I took Reiki 1, yeah, and a lot of people do identify it from that and figure out how to channel it to others through Reiki. I guess the pandemic is giving them the homeschooling they need. Absolutely. What are you doing up there? Hey, you don't need to be in that box. That's not for you, and I don't trust you in it, so don't get in there. Leela, behave yourself over there. You're looking for trouble because you're bored. Go back outside if you're bored. So these kids don't do well being boxed in. So what comes next? Now, these I just got excited about because I'd never come across it before. And they're the next generation after the rainbows. So the rainbow children are still being born to the crystal children now. And so this will be the generation that comes after them. And they're going to be the ones that kind of help see in the, don't use that box as a litter box, kitten. Come on out of there. Are they getting along better? Little girl is not her fan, and I have to keep after her to make sure she's not inciting something, which is her favorite game with Leela, is to stalk her and like pounce her or lay in wait for her and then start shit and pick a fight. She does better actually with Marley's energy, I guess, than hers. Like she doesn't like Marley, but she isn't as confrontational as is with Leela. It's been done intentionally for the greater good. Yes. Earn the fucking box. It's it's the box that I keep my tobacco in once the shipment comes. I store it over there, and she's been climbing in and out of it. But I've been keeping an eye on it. That she knows how to use the litter box. She's box trained, but I think that she's bored and climbs in it out of curiosity. I don't know. Doesn't seem like she's doing anything in it, but I'm kind of like, don't you do it, just in case. So what comes after now? This the last generation that's been identified. These children are supposed to see in the golden age of humanity if we can manage to push the shit out of things to get it there. And it's been said that this has been a cycle with human history, which I'm going to explain in a minute here. So after the rainbow children grow up and have kids of their own, little girl has no interest in boxes, ironically, but then again, I think she's autistic too. So once they're fixed, that's what I'm hoping for, Chris. Of course, I have to go through a litter of kittens first. I don't know how that's going to work with my cat. I really don't. And then just with having them everywhere and keep track of them, that's going to be difficult with her. And hopefully she'll be okay with them and not like, I could see her bitch slapping some of them just to kind of put them in their place of, hey, I'm the queen bee here. But beyond that, I don't want her to be mean to them either or hurt them once they're mobile and are wandering and getting into everything. Autumn's cat loves boxes. Yeah, she doesn't do anything with them. Like I've given little girl boxes before and she'll glance at it like, what am I supposed to do with that? She doesn't get it. She has no interest in it. But then again, the calming spray you sent doesn't calm her. She reacts like a normal cat would to catnip. Whereas with catnip, she gets very mean and aggressive with. So again, every perception from her, she processes everything differently. So, but Marley likes the spray a lot. You would have been laughing your ass off if you had seen it because little girl was sitting a little ways back far from where she is now, the spot, and that's where I'd sprayed on the blanket was there for her. And I have my arm in there. She's sitting there growling at him, and he gets a whiff of it, and he starts trying to creep up on with just his head and his front legs onto the blanket with his head down, kind of going low to it, and then he's just getting all happy and starts to drool, and he just wants to rub on it, and he's trying to creep forward. I've got my arm in between them to kind of let her know, like, don't do it, leave him be. He's not hurting you, and I know he's close, but it's okay. And he's still trying to get as close to my arm as he could to get up on the bed as much as he could without getting up because he wanted the smell of it. So it was amusing. I have a catnip for her. Yes, it was kind of funny. She is like an opposite, but again, it's much like an autistic kid would be with things where how they perceive information that comes like incoming stimuli is very different than an atypical person was. My other cat I had was virtually identical to her in behavior. How the behavior manifested was different, but the processing skill is the same, if that makes sense. So, anyway. So, the next generation is supposed to herald us into the golden age of humanity are called the golden children. Now, we don't know yet exactly what will come in with them to raise the collective or to add to the collective of the indigos, the crystals, and the rainbows. However, they've already been kind of labeled and foreseen that they're going to be the ones that come in after the rainbows have kids, that these will be like born to a lot of the rainbow children. It's thought that they will bring in new forms of energy. They may take healing to a whole new level to have humans not have the need to suffer diseases again. And it's thought that they will bring in the last oomph needed to jumpstart the golden age of humanity. The world will be one large commune split into millions of smaller ones. It won't be in our lifetime, of course, which we kind of already knew that, but it's the future of the rainbow children and their children. And it's thought that the golden children will have the same characteristics as rainbows, except have more of a golden aura. And they are different, though, in evolving earlier than rainbows. So where rainbow children, may have delays with when they start to talk and stuff like that. The golden children will start speaking and communicating earlier. Lena, don't come up on the bed, honey. You know how she is. You want to say hi, come over here to me. Don't go over the bed. I'm an opposite. Cold medicine makes me hyper, and energy things make me drowsy. Yeah, and she does that with any like incoming stimuli of uh, perceptions of things. So the way she moves, the way she perceives things that would be atypical cat behavior, she doesn't process them the same way as other cats. What are you doing, Leela? Stop cruising around. Like, I don't know what you're looking for, but there is nothing new in those areas, I promise. That's good that you leave the catnip alone. That's a good thing. So let's go ahead and complete the topic of star seeds and cover golden children. Welcome back. So, golden children, these haven't come in yet, but are expected to be the offspring once the rainbows have grown and have their own children. They're thought to be going to be born through them. And again, they're here to usher them golden age of humanity in. So, they will they will have like an extensive vocabulary, and they may actually talk early and fluently compared to rainbow children. They are often self-taught to read early, like they teach themselves how to read, much younger than atypical kids do. They have a much lower need for sleep than what an atypical kid needs. They require emotionally stable adults around them to help guide them and keep them stable. They can be resistant of authority. They resist rote memory learning and just being a listener. They're not into that. They want to be involved in the learning actively, not just sit back and, you know, writing their lines as a form of memorizing things. That has no interest for them. Their DNA very well could be different if they're star seeds. Yeah, you know. I think that if it were studied if someone identified them as indigo, crystal, rainbow, any of them, I think that if you look closer at the DNA, that all of the DNA of those beings would be slightly different, or there would be some anomalies in the DNA that an atypical person may not have. So the golden children are supposed to be very compassionate, exhibit really high IQs, but often frozen creativity as well. So they can get stuck on something and just not have it flow for them. They have an avid interest in science and literature. They are supposed to be able to show superior judgment in evaluating things. They have a lot of high common sense, like a lot of common sense. They're very independent and outgoing and always work to improve things. Such they will use music to express their feelings and experiences. They will show endurance, stamina, and physicality that rainbows lack. You know, rainbows aren't really physical beings. They're not interested in competition. These guys are and will be. So you've heard me mention many times how all of this regarding the golden age of humanity and being prophesized since at least the time of the Mayans. It was also put forth in the Hindu Vedas and other literature, and is based on the idea that it takes the sun 25,000 years to finish its rotational cycle through the galaxy, and how there once was a golden age already happened here on Earth. And I think that this happened around the time, for those of you who are older members who might remember this topic, we're talking about ancient civilizations, and we were talking about the Indus Valley. And so in the Indus Valley, there was no evidence found of there was no archaeological remains of there being any sort of a hierarchy in existence for these people. Nothing in, like, you know, how Egypt is full of all this huge statues everywhere and grand tombs for its leaders and the pharaohs and that hierarchy above, like, rulers. the Indus Valley people there was nothing in their archaeological record about this. The only thing that was found was one broken statue that was actually thought more to be a priest than like a ruler of the class of people. And that everything about what has been found left behind by this culture was that everybody was on equal footing. There was no hierarchy of any kind. Everybody had all their needs met. It was a very like with the structure of the homes and things like that, everybody, there was no like class system in place to where a separation of you have this and I don't, and or everybody had like working plumbing, everybody had like bathrooms, if you the equivalent of bathrooms and bathtubs and working plumbing, irrigation stuff, like everything was a shared thing. There was nothing, no one was above anybody. However, this whole civilization just disappeared. There was no signs left behind that there was ever a war or any sort of battles that killed people off. Nothing was reflected in the archaeological record that something killed these people off. And of course, mainstream archaeologists said they probably just were absorbed into the outlying cultures that surrounded them. But there's really no evidence one way or the other for that. They just disappeared. So I think that the Indus Valley civilization was part of the previous golden age of humanity, because that's exactly what's been prophesized, that we're going to head back into, to where there isn't a class system in place. Everybody's equal. There is no I have and you don't. The rich stay rich, the poor stay poor. That's not going to be a thing in the golden age of humanity. And they had that. So it's existed before. So it shows that, it is possible. But that's what we're supposed to, these kids, all these generations of kids are helping push the collective towards that. So that's my opinion, is that the Indus Valley was part of that original golden age of humanity. So I heard they went in the earth to protect themselves to appear later again. It's possible. I don't put anything past. And with all of the underground cities that have been found archaeologically, I mean, they obviously were capable of holding, thousands and thousands of people under there, and everybody not be on top of each other. They all had their living places and places of worship and everything else. I mean, it was like underground city. And there's many cultures in Mesopotamia that have that web work of underground tunnel systems that held that. So it is possible that they did. Nope, no more caste systems, none of that. Change team, yeah, exactly. So I think, that's my opinion, is that the occupants of the Indus Valley, that they were like at the end of the last 25,000 year cycle of the sun, and that is what we're approaching now, is the pinnacle of that path of the sun, and that is what is supposed to herald the new age coming in. Now, at this point, I want to go out of the chat for just a minute so I can read something that is saved into my photos. I screenshot it basically, but it's like a little article that I took screenshots from. I didn't really want to have to handwrite it all out into the notebook, so I just screenshot it instead. But because I'm on my tablet to be broadcast through, then the phone is for chat. So I want to step out of chat and then go get those pulled up so I can read it to you. And that will kind of help finish off the show. But I think it's important information. And there's a really good website Chris and I were getting excited about returning to it to finish checking it out. It was called the Indigo Prophecies, right, Chris? I think that was what the site was called, that had a lot of good information and a lot of like links going off of it. Chris and I are late night knowledge seekers all the time on stuff. So we often are, I'm sending her cool things I come across and vice versa all the time. And hey, check this out. And so I'm going to step out of chat and pull those up so I can read it to you. So I won't be able to respond to comments for a minute. It is interesting, Sandy. So let me find my photos on here. Not that. I tried to crop them and number them so that it was easier to access. So let's see. There we go. Number 1. All right. So, like I said, this is from the main page of that website for the Indigo Prophecies. But I didn't have the time to delve into all the links because at that point it was like 5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, and I hadn't eaten yet, so I kind of was wrapping it up. But it's there if anyone's interested. So this is the screenshots from that main page. So it says the Indigo Prophecy indicates unique children were born with innate psychic and telepathic abilities just prior to the age change. They're here to prepare humanity for the new age of Aquarius. These special children were born around 1980. Let's get rid of that chat head. And beyond. This phenomena is not new. Before every age change, root children are born with the traits of the new age already intact. The closer humanity gets to the age change, the more traits show themselves in our children. Their abilities show humanity as a whole and the planet are moving upward in consciousness. The indigo crystal and rainbow children represent this new, more advanced race predicted by the Indigo Prophecy. They are better prepared to handle and understand the great changes our planet is experiencing right now. These changes will escalate in the near future as the Indigo Prophecies continue to unfold. Those who cannot keep up with the acceleration, and this is a quote, by the way, sorry, those who cannot keep up with the acceleration of the change now occurring, who refuse to grow, are screaming at those who can't, screaming for attention and love in the only way they know how, with anger. Consciousness is actually becoming self-aware. A global mind has formed. The Mayan calendar reflects the end of history as we know it, which was a world based on duality and, let me get the next page up, and duality and separation, and the birthing of a golden age of enlightenment during which it will be possible to attain unity consciousness, oneness, i.e. the one unity consciousness. A return to the natural order is predicted in the sense that respect, honor, cooperation, tolerance, understanding, and peace are instinctive in the human family and will resurface if given a chance. And end quote. And that is from Beyond the Indigo Children by P.M.H. Atwater. And then it goes on to say, I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to Indigo Prophecy changes. But with every great change, there's usually great pain. The pain of letting go of what doesn't work anymore and embracing the unknown. We're experiencing that pain predicted by the Indigo Prophecy right now. The more we hold on to these old, outdated values, the more pain. And you guys have been hearing me say for 5 or 6 years now that it's going to get bad before it gets better. And that's what's been happening. So what does that quote above mean? According to the Maya, we will return to a Christ-like state of being, and that anyone dedicated to its principles will achieve it. This is a state in which power of forgiveness is complete, and those who accept their calling will be dedicated to serving the values of love and grace inherent to individuals of a higher or spiritual calling. The Indigo Prophecies predict a return to the nature's order, nature's rhythms, not our own artificial versions of time and reality. If the Indigo Prophecies do come true, we will be living out the top 4 chakras or energy centers based on love: the heart, the throat, third eye, and crown, instead of the lower chakras, the chakras of fear, the root, sacral, and solar plexus. Right now, the earth is centered at the solar plexus, and the Indigo Prophecy states we are being asked to make a decision, a choice. Will we go up or will we go back down? Will we choose love or will we choose, next page, number 3. Will we choose love or will we choose fear? The solar plexus is about change and choice. And so that was the main part of that page. If you guys are interested, I can post that in the group or get the link to post in there if you want that instead, whichever you prefer. I'm happy to do that. You know that. Or put it into the guide section even. And just so you're aware, Charles, underneath the group photo, there is a row of buttons underneath that are gray. The one labeled guides that's my resource library I built for all the members, and it's separated out in the topic. So to make it easy as possible for everybody to learn. So there's topics like spirituality, numerology, gemstones and crystals, herbal remedies, witchy things, like whatever people want. So I want to end videos that I thought that I resonate with as being truth are in there as well. So let me catch up on comments here. Maybe we can find a book about this or book group. That would be interesting. And for anyone who's not aware, I do run a book group Wednesday nights. You get in there through the group. It's like a video chat room. You don't have to be on video if you don't want to, but I read whatever it is so people don't even have to get the book themselves unless they want it. And sometimes we just hang out and talk all night. Sometimes we have different discussions. We read a book off and on, discuss it, whatever. So just hang out. So that starts 8 p.m. Eastern time in the group on Wednesday nights. So I remember humans have extreme difficulties with change. Yes, we don't like change. We're afraid of change, which everything changes. Exactly, especially when I'm a Taurus. Yes. Change is good for the soul. It is. Yes, post it in the group. Yep, Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. Thank you. So I will get the link to that to put in there. And I made a note to myself to refer to the old notebook. Let me pull that out here for the topics for next week as well. Clothing is optional. Yep, because not everybody's on camera the whole time or is off and on. So that is a thing. I mean, I have clothes on because I'm on camera all night, but everybody else doesn't have to be. Yep, bring your own alcohol as you wish, which I'm hoping that next time I get out for groceries that I'm going to make a stop, pick up some rum, because I got a bottle of Coke out there waiting for me with it, but I don't have anything to mix with it. So, or if I can find some pre-made like pina colada mix, that'd be really good too. Just saying. Can you imagine me getting drunk and trying to read to you guys? Jesus. No pants. That's right. Pants are optional. That there. Don't fear the Reaper. You got a song in your head. Yes, I love pina coladas. I do. Okay, so that said, just figuring where I left off. So the world must hear, enact, or what these children have to say in order to transition to change happening as predicted. But it's been being predicted for thousands and thousands of years. So and it is happening. Everything they said would happen is happening. Did I see your message? I don't think I did, Ronnie. Let me back up and look. I might not have gone back up high enough when I came back in. Or it's not going to let me. Yeah, it's not letting me scroll back, but I can check it after the show's over. If you leave the chat and come back in, at least for me, the chat freezes at a certain point. When you come back in, it doesn't let you access the whole chat from the whole night. So it stopped, or it starts where Sandy says, maybe we can find a book about this for book group. So I apologize, but I can't, unless you want to repeat it. Oh, Ronnie wants to speak to me after the show. Okay. No problem, love. You know how to find me at any time. So these children are here to help make these changes happen. And more of them will be coming in as predicted. I mean, it's already happening. We're already here and we're already doing our thing. And then again, you don't typically know up front, but at some point during your awakening, there is like an aha moment of knowing that I am something more than what has been previously thought, and I am here for this reason. I mean, I was made aware at age 2021 of my purpose for being here, and that has not changed in all these years. I am here to help others in any capacity, and everything I've always done has been for that. Only if I feel like it. Well, I'm saying, like, you can message me at any time, and you know that. Like, it doesn't have to be a set time, and I always answer within a reasonable time period. So yeah, you knows how to find me, sister. So, topics for next week. Well, we covered that already. Covered Starseeds tonight too. Well, I guess there was a show where I touched on Starseeds. I don't think it was as deep as what I did tonight, but because that was back when I was still with Candy when I first started, and she was like itchy about length of my shows. So yeah, there's like 3.5 pages of notes from that, so it wasn't a long show. So the next couple of topics we have on the table, yeah, we can definitely look into if there is a book on that, and double check the website. Just being a whole blessing to people. Well, thank you. And no, I mean, that's my role, is to help others. That's why I'm here. And in any job I've ever had in my life, and now that I'm disabled, I'm still doing it. I just don't get paid for it most of the time, is all. I'm here to help others. So I do. It's like a drive I have, or I have to do it. And that's how you know it's a mission that you have here, is a role of being aware of your purpose, and that drive where you can't not fulfill it. It's just like a push to do it. Like, I don't know how else to explain it. Let's see. Sandy Miller, congrats. You have earned a Soma Fusion page badge for top fan and first anniversary follower. Aw, I was wondering what that one was about, because a few of you others have ones too, and I'm kind of like, it's one something. So, well, Sandy, we haven't talked about the topics for next week. I mean, you can go if you want. You'll know about them when I post it, I guess. So the topics on the table for next week, if everybody's good for it, in like the next in the line in the old notebook, is near-death experiences, portals, and black-eyed children. Combining those three would probably make a pretty, long enough, well-rounded show. You guys good with that? No, go ahead and walk out, Sandy. It's all right. I don't mind. No, you're fine. So, are you guys good with that, with the near-death experiences, portals, and black-eyed children for next week? I mean, there's not a lot known about the black-eyed children besides reports of people's personal experiences, and that are kind of far and few in between, but it's an interesting topic. Yeah, that's what I've been doing. Sandy is covering like 2 or 3 at a time to make a full show, because Candy used to limit me to an hour or less for my shows, because she was that way when I first started the show. So I couldn't do a bigger show, and Katie doesn't have much else happening that is of pressing need for stuff, and she takes care of her kids as she needs to behind the scenes while I'm on air, so it doesn't matter to her. So I can go as long as I want to, because Katie loves me that way. So yes, they are interesting topics. Like I said, they've been covered before. However, we don't have the archives anymore, so we will finish that up. So, and depending on, I'll take a look at the notes, because I haven't actually reviewed them yet, but if need be, I'll throw in the next topic on the list too, which is elementals. And either way, we'll throw it all together, and I'll, me, I make it cohesive in some way or another to make it all work. So with that'll be the goal for next week, and they're going to be caught up on the old archives in no time. I don't know of a specific date. My best guess is we lost the original group, I think, in June of last year. Well, the year before now, because we're in 2022 now. So in 2020, I think, is when the original group got lost. Correct me if I'm wrong, somebody, but I think that's what it was. So whatever's up to that point date wise. After that, then we got with Katie and have been covered and with backup since then. Plus, whatever was been done with this group are in the shows or in the archives for the group. So if you go up to the little magnifying glass in the upper right corner and you put it in there, you enter in the topic, those topics will be listed in there as well, but are also saved on YouTube on the Soma Fusion channel, as well as on my personal YouTube channel under the Willows Ben folder. So it's all in there. So it was June. I thought so. It kind of stuck in my head, which I'm not good at that usually, but it was impactful for me to remember it, I guess. You could have been. See, I warned them that you might be coming in before you got here, Charles, so they had a heads up. And yes, you overall behaved. There goes a pen. It's all right, it's just a pen. All right, my lovelies, so we will call it a night. Thank you all for coming, as always, and I love to all of you, and I hope the rest of you have a wonderful week, and I will see those who are interested for book group Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern in the room section of the group, and I will check into seeing if that's an actual book that we can get a hold of the Indigo Prophecies, because that would be interesting to read. So, yeah, we do have good energy in here. These are my family. So, anyway, have a wonderful night. Lots of love, family, and I will see you guys around Facebook land and Wednesday night. Love to all of you. So, have a wonderful night. Good night, everybody.